Our mind is like a machine that never stops working. Because of this, we often think about the events that happen in our lives, the things we've experienced in the past, and the events that might happen in the future. Actually, this thinking process is mostly beneficial to us, helping us take firm steps in life. However, there's a fine line we encounter here. When we cross this line, if a person starts thinking about the same issue thousands of times, questioning every detail of what happens in life down to the smallest part, they can't find time to live because of overthinking. This state of excessive thinking is what we call overthinking problem. Mental rumination. In this video, I want to talk to you about how you can get rid of overthinking and continue with your life. Live in the moment. First, you need to realize whether you have an overthinking problem. So how can you understand this? Think of it this way: in life, both you and I encounter various events and face some dilemmas. We experience situations where people hurt us or where we struggle. We think about such events and start to produce solutions as we ponder them. Thinking to a certain extent, let's say like a thermometer, thinking between a range of 1 to 10, up to the 5 level, helps us solve life's problems and allows us to discover solutions we didn't see initially. However, when we go beyond 5, if we are thinking about the same thing hundreds of times day and night without stopping, and if this thinking state, after a point, not only fails to bring solutions but the mere act of thinking itself starts to cause stress, then what we are experiencing is the overthinking problem. The minds of people who suffer from overthinking work like an airplane engine. There is always something whirring around, and the person cannot make sense of what they are doing, saying, eating, drinking, or experiencing. Their mind is completely turned inward. That airplane engine is constantly running, and after a certain point, this can even lead to psychological problems. The first question people who suffer from overthinking should pay attention to and ask themselves is this thinking state useful? There is a method a person learns during childhood. If you want to solve an issue, you have to think it through thoroughly. Maybe your mother was like this, maybe your father was like this, or maybe you discovered this method on your own. This state of excessive thinking over an issue. However, as I mentioned earlier, this state of overthinking is not functional. First, you need to convince yourself of this. Thinking a lot about an issue does not mean you can easily solve it. And here's the thing: when a person starts thinking too much about a matter, even if it is the most positive matter in the world, we see that the problems actually grow bigger. Overthinking starts to darken whatever it touches. It begins to make things negative. What's more, you can turn even the most positive thing in the world into a negative one by overthinking it. That's why the vast majority of things we overthink are negative. But what happens when you frequently think about negative things? Your stress levels reach their peak, and you constantly feel tense and uneasy. So what happens when you feel tense and uneasy? That's when the adrenaline hormone in our body is released more. While this is helpful to a certain extent, what happens when it's excessive? Your problem-solving and creativity skills start to decline, and you begin to perform well below your potential in solving the problems that arise in life. What happens then? When you overthink, you become unable to solve a problem that you could have easily solved simply because overthinking causes you stress. In other words, overthinking an issue not only fails to help you solve it, but actually prevents you from solving it. You need to engrave this idea in your mind first. I compare people who overthink to someone driving a car and constantly checking things you're driving, and you keep checking if the steering wheel is turning by feeling it with your hands. You stick your head out the window to see if the wheels are turning. Meanwhile, you're listening to the engine, wondering if the sounds indicate a problem, and you're glancing at the rear-view mirror to check if there's an issue behind the car. What happens when you do this? You won't be aware of the road you're on, nor will you feel relaxed for even a second during the journey. This is how overthinkers feel for a large part of their lives. They believe they are in control by constantly checking everything. But is it really possible to control everything at every moment? I don't think so. In life, yes, there are areas we can control, and we can manage them in a very short time. But after that, many of the things we think we control are actually beyond our control. Imagine you think you control the sunrise every morning. It rose today, let's see if it sets in the evening. You'll check it again tomorrow morning. You think the sun rises because you're checking it, but it's going to rise anyway. You'll notice if it doesn't. If there's a problem with the car engine, it will become apparent enough to bother you. You'll know if a tire is flat or if the steering is faulty. You don't detect these things early because you're controlling them. They reveal themselves naturally. For people, it's the same situation. Everyone has a certain capacity. If you don't have a mental disability or a severe psychological problem, when a problem arises, you'll find an average solution after thinking about it 3 to 5 times. And once you find it, you either take action or give yourself a bit more time. But what happens when you think about the same issue 150 times? Only the first 3 thoughts are useful. The remaining 147 thoughts are meaningless and only cause you distress. You're already doing what you can. Like the sunrise, it doesn't help if you keep pushing yourself about it. You need to be mindful of this. There are 2 main types of questions that lead people to overthink. One is what if, and the other is why. We all experience events in the past. Maybe we've gone through a breakup, faced a problem at work, or encountered countless other issues. Thinking, what if I had done this? What if I had acted like that? Would it have been different? And rewriting scenarios from scratch triggers your overthinking. What's done is done. Thinking about what if scenarios only drags you into that mental quagmire, making it harder to get out. Another problematic question type is why. Why did this happen to me? Why don't others experience this? Why? Why is, in my opinion, one of the most toxic question types. What will happen by asking why it happened to you? How should I know? Fate, luck, evolution, whatever you believe in, it happened to you. Does everything need to have a meaning? I don't think so. Sometimes things just happen in life. When you ask why, what are you doing? You're looking for a calf under the ox. The why question never concludes. You'll keep asking why did they leave me? What did I do? What if I had acted differently? You need to stop asking yourself these kinds of questions. Another thing that triggers overthinking is excessively pondering your past mistakes while questioning the past. Just like the scenarios I mentioned earlier, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? Instead of chasing these what ifs, wouldn't it be better to say to yourself you did your best? At that time, your experience and knowledge allowed you to do this. And you did it. If you had another option, you would have done it then, and if there was something else you could have done but didn't, there is a reason for that too. What does that mean? You learn from it, you draw lessons from your mistakes. You need to give yourself positive affirmations. You did your best. You are good enough. You don't need to be perfect. You are valuable with your mistakes. Yes, these sentences, these words don't create miracles, but you can be sure they are much better than the alternative. I liken excessive and uncontrollable thinking to dark clouds, and fighting with dark clouds, or any clouds for that matter, is very difficult. When you try to touch them, they disperse. What will you do? The more you try to fight them, the more they will spread everywhere. You need to control your overthinking and the subjects you think about. If you want to take control of it in some way. When you're thinking about an issue and throughout the day, your mind keeps working on it in the background like an open tab. While you're eating, it's in the background. While you're at your computer answering emails, it's in the background. What happens in this case? Nothing is fully complete for you. Sometimes, trying a different approach can help you relax. For example, think about it this way: you can dedicate a specific time of the day to overthinking. Initially, this might not be easy, but it's so comforting that, as I said, you can set aside 20 to 30 minutes a day for overthinking. And only during those minutes, you think about that issue. When it comes to your mind during the day, remind yourself of that time and say, I won't think about this now. I'll wait for that time. It will be a bit difficult at first, but if you don't give up, you can be sure that you'll be able to solve it in some way. Overthinking is like clouds, but clouds aren't easily measurable. Thoughts are the same way. There are many thought clouds and clusters, some small, some large, and you jump from one to another, from one to another. You end up thinking about a lot, but with nothing concrete. What should you do? You need to formulate these thoughts, the ones that occupy your mind. First, we categorize. What are you thinking about? Is it about your relationship, your job, or something else? Sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and make that categorization. For example, if there's an issue related to your job, write it down. Why am I anxious? What am I thinking about right now? List it item by item. Then ask yourself, have I done everything I can? Answer that question, and then ask again, have I done everything I can? What have I done? Write down the steps you've taken. Next, ask yourself, is there anything I need to do right now? Look at your list. I need to address this issue then. Think again in the same formulated way. Have I done what I needed to do? Is there anything left to do? What happens? This time you've solidified that thought cloud. It will be much easier to control. Sometimes the state of overthinking, those dark clouds, surround us so completely that we feel overwhelmed and pressured. Here's what you need to do in such situations. Immediately change your environment or activity. Are you at your computer? Get up and take a walk. If you have the chance, watch a show, call a friend you like, and chat about something trivial. Just shifting your mind from one topic to another for 15 minutes can make it much easier to take control. If you're someone who experiences overthinking problems, share with us in the comments what you obsess over and what you can't get out of your mind. Thank you for listening to me. If you liked this video, don't forget to like it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to subscribe. Stay strong.